Hey class, happy Friday. Right, we made it through, almost made it through week 4 here of remote learning. Just want to say thank you guys and keep working hard. All right, and yeah, just keep up the nice work. All right, I saw some good things with the homework yesterday. A couple of little minor things that I'm going to talk about when we do our review today. And then be sure that you guys are looking over the comments and the homework and stuff that I'm making. All right. So today is going to be kind of a review day. We're going to go over the 2 skills that we learned this week. We'll take a couple review notes here, and then I have a quizzes that I will assign to you guys when we're done with this, okay? So again, we want to make sure for this unit that we're doing that you have that factors chart out and available, printed if possible. That would be ideal. If you can just print out this factors chart and it's going to have this document open because you're going to need it, all right, for the review for next week and for the following week and even the week after that, all right, because we are going to be doing this remote learning, right, for the rest of the year. And this factors chart document will be helpful when we're doing this factoring unit, okay? All right, so here we go. Here are the notes. Let me just open it up here. All right, so this is kind of a review day, as I mentioned already, to kind of recap the week here. All right, so we got our first example here, right, of just straight finding that GCF, right? We want to list out all the factors of 18 and 30 and just circle the greatest one that's in common with them. All right, and again, that's why I have you take out that factors chart so that you can reference it if you don't know all your factors, all right? But we do know that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different factors of 18, all right? So it's going to be 1 and 18, it's going to be 2 and 9, and it's going to be 3 and 6, all right? Because each one of those pairs multiply to 18, all right? And for the number 30, we have 1 times 30, we have 2 times 15. We have 3 times 10. And what is that last pair of factors that we need to write down? That's right. It's going to be 5 and 6. All right. So now that we listed out all our factors, we're going to find the greatest one in common. All right, so a hint here, a reminder, is to kind of circle that greatest common factor so you can see it, all right? And that's going to be as important when we actually factor using that GCF later on in this review, okay? So we're scanning here, right? I see some 1s in common. I see some 2s in common, some 3s in common. I see that 6 in common, and it looks like that 6 is going to be my greatest number in common. So then I will circle that for my GCF. Oh, there's a number 6. So that means my GCF is 6. All right, in example 2, right, again, we're just asked to find the GCF on these first 2 examples, right? So example 2, we have 3x to the 4th and 12x squared, right? Those are my 2 terms that I need to find that have to find the greatest common factor with those. All right, so 3x to the 4th, again, means I have 4 x's, right? So list out those 4 x's, right? And you guys are doing a really nice job of listing out these x's, all right? And all the numbers here. All right, so we have 1 times 3, and then x, 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 x. All right, and then for 12x squared, we have x and x. And then my factors of 12 are going to be 1 times 12, 2 times 6, and 3 times 4. All right, so now this is the part here will be helpful to circle your greatest common factors, okay? So we look at the numbers, right? We have 1s and we have 3s in common, so that means that 3 is the greatest number in common. And then for my x's, right? How many x do they both have in common, right? They have 1 x in common and they have another x in common, right? When they have 2 pairs of x's in common, it's going to be x to the 2nd power. All right, so the GCF of those 2 terms is 3x squared. All right, so perfect. And now we're going to move on to factoring, finding that GCF. All right, so these next couple problems are going to start out the same way, all right, by finding that GCF, but now we're actually going to have to finish off the problem and factor it and get a factored solution. Right, I'm going to have to break down this expression now into parts. All right, so my first expression I'm going to break down is this 6x squared plus 24x. All right, so I'm going to start the same way. X and an x, 1 times 6, and 2 times 3. And I'm going to do the same thing for 24x, right? There goes my x all the way at the end. Ooh, what are my factors of 24? Well, I know 1 and 24 goes into it. I can't remember my other ones. Oh, that's right. Factor chart time, right? So I'm going to find that number. What number was that? 24. And I'm going to find 24 on my chart, and there it is, right? There's 24. So I have 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 times 8, and 4 times 6. All right, so I want to kind of list these in order. 1 times 12, 3 times 8, and 4 times 6. All right, so now I want to circle. Okay, now this is where it's more important to circle so we know kind of what's used up and what's not used up, right? So I look at my numbers. All right, I have 1 and 2. 1's in common, 2's in common, 3's in commons. It looks like 6 is going to be my greatest number in common. All right, and now I want to circle my variables that are in common if I have it, right? These both terms have 1x in common, all right? So I want to make sure that I circle that up so that I can see that my GCF is 6x, all right? And you guys all did a nice job of putting your GCF out in front, all right? And now here, all right, make sure you're paying attention to this part here, all right? Now we need to put back stuff into our parentheses, right? And the stuff that we're going to put back is going to be the stuff that's going to multiply to get back to my original expression, right? So I got to get back to 6x squared, but I'm already taking out this 6x, right? And if I circle what's in common, I can see that 6 times 1, right? Those are the partners. So I got to put that 1 back in, right? But since it's a 1, I don't necessarily need to write it, but I'm going to this time. All right, and this x is not circled, so therefore it needs to go back in, right? Anything that's not circled for your variables need to go back into the parentheses. All right, and now I'm going to do the same thing for this part here, right? 6x times what is going to give me my 24x? Well, 6 times 4, right? Those are the partners. All right, so I got to put the 4 back here, but I don't have any x's, so no x's go back in. All right, so now my factored solution is going to be 6x times x plus 4, or 1x plus 4, but we don't need to write that one necessarily. All right, so that's my factored solution. All right, we got a couple more here, right? And then you guys will practice with that quizzes. All right, here we go. Number 4 says 18x plus 45, and I have to factor that, right? So again, list out the factors. Factors of what 18x are going to be, oh, I forgot to put that x out first. All right, so I got that x out there, so it's going to be 1 and 18 now. 2 times 9 and 3 times 6. And my factors of 45 are going to be 1 times 45, 3 times 15, and 5 times 9. All right, again, list out of my factors. Now I'm going to find the greatest number in common, which is going to be this number 9. And now I look to see, are there any x's, any variables in common? And the answer is no. So then my GCF is just 9, right? So my 9 is going to go out in front. And now I got to get back to this expression, but I'm pulling out this 9, right? So 9 times what will give me back to my 18x? Well, 9 times 2 gives me 18, right? Because those are the partners. And I have this extra x, right? I did not circle it, therefore it needs to go back into my parentheses. And now I got to get back to 45. But I'm taking out this 9, right? So who's 9's partner? The 5 is. So therefore my 5 needs to go back in here. All right. And that is my factored solution, right? So it's going to be 9 times 2x plus 5. Right? I broke up this expression of 18x plus 45 into 9 times 2x plus 5. All right, I'm breaking the expression down. All right. We got one more example here. All right, example 5, which is 10x to the third plus 8x squared plus 45x. All right, again, start listing out the factors, right? X, X, X. 1 times 10 and 2 times 5. For 8x squared is going to be x and x. 1 times 8 and 2 times 4. And for 4x, it's going to be x, 1 times 4, and 2 times 2. All right, so now I'm going to look for that greatest number in common. All right, well, I see some 1s in common. I see some 2s in common. These two have a 4, but that doesn't. Okay, so it looks like my GCF is just going to be 2 for my number. All right, and now I'm going to do the same thing with my x's, right? So this has 1x. I see 2 x's there, and I see 3 x's there, right? Well, the only one that's in common with all 3 is just one single x. All right, all 3 of these have one single x in common, so therefore that is the only piece of this GCF is just one single x. All right, these two terms share an x, but this third one does not have it, so therefore it is not a greatest common factor. So my GCF goes out in front, and now I need to fill in this parentheses, right? So 2x times what gives me back to 10x to the third? Well, here's my 10x to the third row, right? 2 times 1 is partner, so I can put that 1 there. And now that I circled my greatest common factor, I can see that there's 2 extra x's. So those 2 extra x's are the only things that need to go back into my parentheses. All right, because 2x times 1x squared is, oh, I made a mistake. It's not 1, is it? It should be 5. Look at that. Whoops, 2 times 5. So this should be a 5 here, right? And look at Mr. Bassler checking his work, right? 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 1 is not 10. All right, so 2x times 5x squared gives me that 10x to the third. Got to do the same thing. How do I get back to 8x squared if I'm taking out that 2x? Right, well, now 2 times 4 is 8, so that 4 is going to go here. And I have this extra x, so that extra x needs to go back in here. All right, and 2x times 4x gives me that 8x squared. All right, and I got one more spot to fill here, right? 2x times what will give me back to my 4x? Well, 2 times 2 is that 4. So that's where I'm going to put my 2 in here, right? And I don't have any extra x's, so it just stays as the number 2. And right, 2x times 2 gives me that 4x. So I know I have the right solution now. All right, so my factored solution is going to be 2x times 5x squared plus 4x plus